The fight over voting rights has a brand new front: nursing homes. Yep, you heard that correctly. A group of Democratic senators are sounding the alarm that new guidance from the Trump administration is designed to disenfranchise roughly 1.2 million nursing home residents. In a new letter, they highlight how the administration has removed suggestions for how nursing home staff can help residents vote, like providing transportation to polling places. And they note how, instead, the guidance threatens staff with fraud investigations if they engage in inappropriate coercion or other violations of residents' rights. Mark Elias is back with us. Why this target, Mark?
It's really interesting because historically we have thought about older Americans as being reliably Republican. But what has happened in recent years is that they have become more likely to vote Democratic. And so right on cue, we watch as the Republican Party has now turned on our nation's elderly to try to make it harder for them to vote. And this is part of a larger pattern that we've seen over the last year or so. My law firm and I, we've litigated cases where the aim of the litigation on our part is to make sure that everyone can vote, including older folks in nursing homes or assisted care facilities. And the Republicans' aim has been to disenfranchise them. And it's really shameful. It's really, along with their turning on military and overseas voters, which is kind of another underreported story about how much they're targeting mail-in ballots to come in from overseas. It's really a shameful episode in a party that is filled with shameful episodes.
I want to come back to the mail-in voting, but I do just want to say, as a point of privilege, that nursing homes are already reporting shortages of caregivers because of the president's immigration policies. One nursing home executive told the New York Times, quote, "Our workforce is being drastically disrupted. Relationships are being severed and lives are being upended right now." I have to wonder, Mark, who is going to want to do this critical work if they are being attacked from every which way, right? Like the fact that we are talking about people who are care providers facing the possibility of fraud investigations because they did what they are paid to do, which is to help people, right? To help people get to the polling place, to help people sign their paperwork. Like the effort to make sure that less people participate is just so devastating, Mark.
No, but I think you're onto this. I mean, what's really been noticeable in the last year plus since Donald Trump came back into office is how much of the anti-fraud rhetoric and how much of the intimidation based on that rhetoric is actually aimed at the people who are trying to make the system work. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, they're not like, this is not aimed at people fraudulently voting. This is aimed at, as you say, caregivers, the people who are, bathing and feeding and otherwise taking care of the most vulnerable people in our society. We saw the Department of Justice, send these blunderbuss letters to election officials saying that they might be prosecuted if someone votes illegally. And again, we all have seen the poll workers. The poll workers are typically people who are also older, more often than not, but they're largely volunteers or paid, just a per diem, just to have democracy function. And so this is a Department of Justice that has really focused its energies, and a government that has really focused its energies at the people who are, frankly, doing the hard work, rather than, the people who, among other things, broke into the Capitol on January 6th.
Well, can you help me understand something? Because in Nevada, a judge threw out criminal charges against so-called fake electors accused of trying to overthrow Biden's 2020 win, even though he had 30,000 more votes in that state. We've also seen similar fake elector cases dismissed in Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, on top of all the January 6th pardons. Why, Mark?
Yeah, so look, the fake electors cases, from a criminal standpoint, from a state criminal standpoint, are tricky, right? Because you need a state crime to essentially have filled out and submitted paperwork to go to the Congress and the archivist, saying that you are an alternative or the actual electors. And, you can see why that would fit quite naturally in a federal criminal indictment, right? Because after all, the paperwork is being submitted to Congress and it's being submitted to the federal government. But making this work in the context of state charges, I think, was always more challenging. But but kudos for the prosecutors who looked at it and tried to see whether or not these folks could be held accountable there. But that's, I think, the reason why.
Mark Elias, thank you so much for your time today. We're always so grateful to you.